is being authentic, right? And and for those of us who have kids, boy, they can see you coming a mile down the road if they know you're faking it, right? Okay, and so I've seen Oscar a couple of times, and you just seem like you are who you are, and that's so refreshing for someone. That's because he's not a politician yet, right? So we'll take it, or thank you. Okay, so why are we here, and why am I talking about this? How many of you guys think that the American legal system is fair? Yeah. Whatever. How many of you how many of you have heard of Act Blue? Right? So, I thought it was a very interesting slide that, was it Heather who showed us, about individual donations, small dollar, big dollar, and how the Democrats had bigger percentages of individual donations, small dollar individual donations. There needed to be an asterisk, because all that money is laundered cash through Act Blue. You've seen the videos where, they find little old ladies who've given 17,000 times, $72 each. Right?
Going to jail.
Maybe, I hope, right? I think there's a whole lot of people that we've heard about that need to go to jail, but we haven't seen any yet. But it's okay. The Lord works, and it's His time. So, why do I mention that here and now? I mention it here and now because all of you are here. You're spending most importantly, your time with us, right? You're spending your money getting up here, right? Because you care about the things that are happening. You care about your family, right? You care about our country. You care about this place. And I don't think many of us are super happy about the way things are going, right? So you're standing up, right? This is fantastic, so thank you. A lot of you, like all of us, know that the rules aren't fair. The things that the other side gets away with, almost carte blanche, right? They come after us, right? So Lady Liberty, right, is not blind. It's very selective prosecution. At Columbia Law School, one of the first trick questions they ask you in international law, right? What's the difference between the communist system and the American system, right? And so if you watch enough of the little cartoons and Insider Days, communism is basically the rule of man. So basically one dictator gets to do whatever he wants. And America is the rule of law, right? And then the professor smirks like, you're such an idiot. Just wait till you finish my class, right? It's not so clear. So what we're going to talk about today is just a few basic things to understand big picture, and I'm going to try to keep it as 30,000 feet as possible for not only the groups that are thinking about new chapters, but also for folks who have established chapters, because one of the interesting answers to today's little presentation is you don't have to choose more than one. There is more than one good answer, and you can ride more than one horse at the same time. It's kind of neat. All right, so you guys ready?
Yeah. Yes.
So first, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to take any notes. Anyone who actually really wants to know more about this, right, in a more detailed level, I've printed out probably 40, 50 copies of a little cheat sheet. Okay, so it's basically a 3-page outline of the differences of a couple of options that you have that are the most common. Okay, and then how you go through setting up and maintaining each one, right? Either a 501c4 or 527, and then a 3-page FAQ with 30 questions that the most people ask. Now, I apologize in advance because I know a couple of the chapters have sent me an email, and I really did not want to reply because I didn't have this stuff ready. So I apologize in advance, but this is helpful because it's just not me going off, right? Shooting from the hip, but giving you something in writing. And if you have any other questions, we're here to help. Now that we're sending this and it's official, send me the follow-up. Great. So, how many of y'all have participated in a Trump rally? All right? Yeah, look, good for you. And so, one of the other things that I was expecting Holly and Heather to say is, okay, yes, of course, if a household has a flag, you knock and say hello because the odds are pretty good, right? But as some of the more data-minded experts like Roxanne here would tell you, anybody with a pickup truck, right? Probably a good chance, right? So before I start getting too much into the weeds, into the technical details that are in this document, I wanted to kind of take that step back, get back to 30,000 square feet, and just really make sure that we not put the cart in front of the horse. So it's all these cliches today. So we got, ready for we got the fire thing, and we got the cart thing, right? Why do I talk about this? Why? Why are you sacrificing your time and your treasure doing this? Now that answer may be really different as Heather and Holly talked to us, discussed with us earlier, right? What drives you, right? What is your personality? Who are you, right? And, do you care about specific issues? I know some chapters care a lot about maybe the Second Amendment and life, right? Other chapters may care a lot about business and property taxes or schools and our kids. That will impact a lot, as far as the law is concerned, up to a certain level, how you take that first step forward to be a formal organization, right? There's a lot we can do as individuals. So before we start talking about just chapters and clubs, each of us have the ability to say whatever we want, I guess within reason, right? And to be able to make financial decisions on an after-tax basis, right? The after-tax part's important. So there's lots and lots we can do, but now that we're talking about what? Okay, I want to start a club, or okay, I have a club, right? And we learned a lot about how you grow a club, how you get more engagement, how you get more members. But okay, so what do I have to be mindful of? And what Caesar? There's lots. It's like have you guys seen that TV series? It's a little older, Sopranos. You just have to. There's the guy who runs the corner. There's the guy that runs the block. You just got to keep picking it up, right? Right, Oscar?
Yes.
Right? So you can think of the IRS as Tony Soprano, right? So he's the godfather, and so and then everything else is. But then you've got kind of his cousin, the nephew, right? The cokehead, right? Who's trying to be a wannabe maiden guy. That would be the state of California, right? But he's still a made man, so you still kind of have to play by the rules, even if they seem silly. So, but start with this, because when we start talking about legal this, legal that, we don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. What do you want to do? This isn't really what we're doing today is not a hardcore partisan political campaign. This is very educational, which is why the Leadership Institute has a 501c3. A 501c3 by definition cannot be political. All right, with the tiny asterisks, exception for churches, right? Because of the First Amendment. So, with that little exception, if as a 501c3 cannot be blatantly partisan. So a lot of today was educational. It was not political, even though all of us here have a certain, I would hope, a certain perspective that we share. Now, how many? I'm sorry?
You meant C4? You said C3.
Well, the Leadership Institute is a 3. She said it was a 3. Then she said I'm a consultant, so I can tell you I'm a Republican. Yes. Yeah. Do not set up a 501c3 to raise money for Donald Trump. He has enough legal troubles as it is. I guess fewer issues now. When you guys think about these organizations and all the reporting, how many of you guys have filed a Form 990? Or a state 8871, like blah, 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 right? And it can seem super complicated, yes? Right? And some of they have different forms or levels of stupidity, right? They have little postcard returns, you can do it electronic, and then you've got full. Oh, I better hurry up. I'm already chewing up all my time. It's the birthday lady's fault. Does that count? Just kidding. What I want to talk to you about is from the opposite side. How do we keep this as simple as possible? My goal is to help you guys understand, what can you do? Is there a way for you to at least start or have something on the side where there is zero regulation? Who likes that idea? Right? Zero incorporation, zero notice, and zero annual compliance. That sounds a little bit more American, yes?
Yes.
All right. And I started with the Act Blue because the reason why they get those little ladies to give 17,000 donations has something to do with what I'm going to cover now. But we're not Act Blue. We're actually honest people, right? You guys remember this gentleman?
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of folks are worried. And I think Holly mentioned someone in the audience asked her, during a break, will I get sued? Or would I get prosecuted for sharing somebody's post? Because we see that happens in the UK, for example, right? So we don't want this for you. There is no perfect answer, but I just want to help you guys look at it from a different dimension, right? If we just focus on what you want to do and kind of be practical in terms of what the size and scale is of your local chapter, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. There's a shockingly small level, low level of paperwork that you really have to worry about, which is really, really helpful for everyone. So what we're going to talk about today, when you have a local political organization, a local chapter of the Golden State Republican Women, we want to think in terms of two different legal entities. Why? Right? Number one, these are both tax-exempt organizations. So the money you raise by having, events where you charge for ticket prices, where you have membership dues, right? That is not going to be treated as taxable income by the IRS and hopefully by the Franchise Tax Board, right? That's one reason. Number two, we're also not Democrats, and so how many of you ladies are involved with the treasury or the finances of your club? So how many of you guys just stash all the cash in the mattress? Maybe not so cool anymore, right? Okay, so, there are some basic things that you can't avoid, right? You can't avoid, for practical purposes, opening up a bank account. So there just are rules because the bank has to comply with the federal government. So those are two important reasons why you do this. Number three, you want to kind of come across as a more established, official, legit entity, right? That's formally affiliated with the Golden State Republican Women. Not just kind of some passionate person who may be here today but not tomorrow, right? There's no permanence, there's no scalability, there's no foundation. How many of you, for example, know anyone who started a side business just for the heck of it, but ends up growing into a bigger business? In the United States, you can set up what's called a sole proprietorship. You don't have to incorporate, right? You can do what's called a quote-unquote DBA, so it's Jong's Muffler Shop, right? But then I would report all that income on my personal tax return. So you can start there, but you would never, ever run a mechanic shop as a sole proprietorship once it actually becomes a real business. Becoming formal, becoming legitimate, keeping the cash for that business separate, those are all important reasons. So let's talk about 501c4s. How many of you guys have heard of this before? Great. And how many of you guys have chapters that are organized as 501c4s? Okay, very interesting. All right. 501c4s are not really supposed to be political organizations. All right? How many of you guys understand that? How many of you guys have heard that before? Right? They're supposed to be civic organizations. The mandate has to be community, civics, education, right? Service, which is why certain organizations, so Ariana raised her hand, so the Young Republicans is a 501c4, right? Which means that the focus can't be, right, raise $1 million and get Donald Trump elected. Not directly. You can have a separate entity for that, but the legal entity, the 501c4, cannot, by law, have as its primary purpose to be a partisan political organization designed to get candidates elected. All right? Now, think about, I know that may make a couple of you guys worried, but think about what you ladies do in your club meetings. It's not, hard. You're not basically surrogate campaign offices for candidates. it is, let's bring speakers in, to educate us, to get more people involved, engaged. So much of what happens in a typical club meeting is indeed civic. It's educational. Right? All right, so this is perfectly fine for a lot of what local chapters do, and it does not prohibit you from double negative, bad. Okay, so you can participate and be active politically, it just cannot be the primary focus. Now, one of the people that did not raise her hand was Roxanne, who is the chair of the Los Angeles County GOP. The local central committees that are part of the LA GOP, right? That whole organization is structured a little differently, just to let you know, right? The reason why the Golden State Republican women have this structure set up so that each of you have the freedom to set up your own entities is because of history, number one, but to really help reinforce this notion that each of you ladies and each of your chapters, right, can stand independently, right? Then you have the ability to pursue your passions and the things that matter the most to your chapter, but on this kind of federated basis. The LAGOP, right, it's not so crazy when all the central committees go wild and crazy, right? And so those local central committees are not individual legal entities, correct? All right, so again.
Unless they set one up.
Unless they set one up, but again, the default is not. So a 501c4 is not intended to be a purebred political organization. But why do people bother? Again, the tax exemption, the EIN, the legitimacy, right? That we're a 501c4. We've actually filed notice with the IRS. We have some paperwork, right? And you have to file a tax return, a 990, so that people can look it up and say, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, here's how much money they raised. But as an actual thing, you have to treat it like an actual thing. It requires incorporating a California not-for-profit corporation. It includes having bylaws, right? Having the meetings to appoint, nominate a board of directors, having officers, and then as a corporate entity, filing both federal and state returns every year. Here are just some examples of the kinds of organizations that are 501c4. Now you notice here, Turning Point Action, right? Sounds like something else, right? Turning Point USA. Remember I said you can kind of have your cake and eat it too? One of the things as you guys become more comfortable in scaling, grow your local organizations is you don't have to pick. You can have a 501c4 and a 527, and a lot of people have lots of 527s. Right? And I'm going to explain why. Now, this is what a 5027 does. Right? The 527 is a natural born killer. Who's seen that movie? NBK. Right? NBK. The whole purpose of a 527 is politics, politics, politics. Get candidates into office. Right? Either support a great candidate or oppose a terrible candidate. Someone's got to go. If there's a good proposition, how do we raise money? How do we get people to vote for that proposition? Terrible proposition, how do we defeat it? It is a purebred animal. Now, if the purpose is we can do education and all these other things, it's actually not a good fit, right? But 527s, like a 501c4, are not for-profit entities, right? Which means anything you receive for your 527 is not taxable. One of the nice things, though, is you have all of these choices, and at a certain level, it's considered so innocent and so local. This is the fork that you take if you want to start modest and small with zero notifications, with zero registration, and zero annual compliance, right? I think everybody raised their hand for this, yes? And even if you have a 501c4, it doesn't stop you from setting up a 527 sidecar. So the nice thing is you can choose to incorporate, you can choose not to, you don't even have to create an entity. You can literally come up and we can help you. real basic set of bylaws. There are no directors. You can say you're the president, you're the vice president. Get the EIN, go to the bank, and they'll open an account for you. Boom, it's done. It's really that easy. The Secretary of State of California has no record of your 527. Who likes that idea? Okay? And if you do not intend on generating or realizing more than $25,000 of annual receipts, right, from whatever source, the federal government does not require you to file a Form 8871. Okay? Most people don't realize that the federal government does not require you to file, right, this form saying I exist. Which also means that so long as you stay below that number, you also don't have to file an annual 8872, which is the return. That's a big deal as you get older, because one of the downsides of having a 527 is you have to identify significant donors. But that's only in your 8872. If you don't have to file 8872, guess what? There's no donor reporting. Now, because 527s are so easy to set up, think about how if you have one campaign, you want to go for it, right? Set up a separate, we call them in corporate America special purpose vehicles. Set it up, run the campaign. If it doesn't work out, close it, right? Keep it to the side. You don't have to use the mothership to take new risk. It's so easy to set up. It's so easy to wind down, right? It's super helpful. Now, the one caveat is at the state level, it's not $25,000, it's $2,000. But it's a tricky 2,000. They say contributions. Right? Remember, a 527 is a natural born killer. It's supposed to be to raise money to give to a candidate through a PAC. Right? 527s are PACs. Right? So, but that would be the 527, right? Janet Price, right? 527 numbers at 72. Writing a $20,000 check and giving it to Oscar. So that Oscar as a candidate, exactly, per month, yes, okay? Oscar then would have to report it as a candidate receiving that donation, right? But it doesn't, if you look at it, they don't have such a big issue if you're raising more than the $2,000 to, again, right, fund events. To do these, so long as the $2,000 is not more than $2,000 in a check to a candidate. Why? Think about it. That's when the reporting starts, right? Because the candidate has to report where this money came from. See, it's all about anybody know what forensic auditing is? You guys probably do, right? Where's the paper trail? Which is why, again, these small 527s are kind of cool. Other than the EIN, which you kind of have to have, other than the EIN, there's nothing that has a smaller, thinner paper trail than these small 527s.
This is not for a candidate at all. Like a candidate can't have a 5.
No, this is for you ladies. Okay, this is for the clubs. This is not for a candidate. FBC rules are totally different, right? And all of his cash is from the cartel with Cat, right? Crypto guy. So it's okay. He's not reporting nothing. So, right? But for different reasons. So, the one thing I do have to point out there is that is different from by doing it this, DIY simple way, right? To keep it as down low as possible, is it's not a corporate entity. So if there is a 0.0001% chance that someone sues you, right, you don't have limited liability protection. It's like you were, doing crafting and selling those products on Etsy, right? Given the modest and local level of activity and the kinds of things you guys do, I don't think any of you guys are bomb throwers, right? So I don't think there's a lot of risk. But I just want to point out, from a legal perspective, the benefit of not having to incorporate is no paperwork. But that means you don't have a limited liability entity to protect you. Okay, these are some examples of 527s. And as I mentioned, a lot of these organizations will have 527s, 501c3s, and 501c4s all next to each other. And a lot of them have 501c6s, which are kind of like fraternal order and mutual support organizations. Right? So here, and the little tables in this little handout, if you are interested, summarizes the difference between a 501c4, a small 527, and a big 527. And the nice thing about this is lack of reporting, lack of registration, lack of notice, right? The donors are not disclosed because there is no 8871, which means there's no 8872, right? And the $2,000 limit, as long as you're very clear about the contributions, right, should not cause you a problem at the state level. So what does that mean? How many of you guys have gone to a fundraiser? Okay, so Oscar, are you going to refuse money if 15, 20, 30 lovely ladies write you individual checks that you get to bundle, as opposed to one check from 1527? I actually think the candidate would prefer having 15, 20 individual checks because he knows who these people are. Okay? So you can quote unquote officially or unofficially bundle so that you invite someone to come. Oscar is here. But if the checks are all individual checks, it does not go through the 527, and therefore it does not trigger 25. See? And now, if you think about it, if you care enough about each of these candidates, you can have one 527 for the sheriff's race. You can have another 5, because it costs nothing to set up, guys. It's literally go to the Chase Bank and open up another 527 account. You can open another one for Congress, another one, et cetera, et cetera. Make sense? So that's why, for those of you who are interested in getting started, right, walk before you run. Don't be in such a hurry to get rid of the training wheels. The easiest, least traumatic way to do this is a small 527. It's that simple, it's that straightforward, because of all these reasons. It sounds like I'm selling it, right? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not timing you. I just wanted to know, on the 527, it would be better for the club then that if we had a candidate come speak, we let the candidate bring envelopes to set on the table?
Sure, if you'd like.
Rather than the club write a donation check, we would rather have
Right.
the members.
Correct. So there's a few things to consider when you have a candidate come. Number one, you want the candidate to acknowledge that you're a great organization, you've really made a difference. 2 reasons, right? It's not just the cash. This is an amazing grassroots organization. You guys make the phone calls. You guys are part of the door knocking army, right? Both are super valuable, which is why Heather said, those small dollar donations are really valuable because those are the ladies who will vote, who will show up and vote for you and bring their sisters and bring their kids, bring their husbands, right? Pull them by the ear, right? Get them a vote. So, a few things to consider. Number one, obviously the candidate shows up and would love a bigger number than a small number. But number two, if the candidate just passes out envelopes, what's the likelihood those envelopes get filled, Oscar? Yeah, not good. So the organization can voluntarily help collect all of the checks and get everything filled out, so that we're not failing to do any reporting, right? Because you have to have you have to know who the money's from, right? How much is it exactly, et cetera, to facilitate that, so that the organization provides a manila folder with a dozen checks, so that he knows and his campaign manager knows how much was raised total. But she also has the benefit of, wow, right? Janet gave us this really great check, right? And it's really nice. And then they're able to identify specifically where that money comes from, but they really know that it's from your chapter. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So, as I mentioned, right, these are the trigger lines. Now, the good news is, I hope all of you get busted and go through these numbers. You can start small and you can scale. Start small. Your first year, you may not raise any, right? You may raise, and you may be able to write a $1,000 check for one candidate, but blowing past these numbers is a good thing. That means you're growing up as an organization, which means it's worth doing the reporting. It's okay. But again, you can have both a 501c4 and many 527s. So anyone into this? Anyone a sadist? No, this is more masochistic, right? Yeah? My point is these small 527s are the simplest, easiest ways to go, right, for a brand new organization, or if you want to be a little bit more political, to kind of keep it separate from your 501c4. We don't want you to feel like I'm saying, okay, I'm done, go figure it out yourselves, right? We have these little summaries. It's basically a 3-page, double-sided, so 6 sides, cheat sheet. 30 questions answered, and 1 page per, here's a summary, here's what a 501c4 looks like, here's what a 527 looks like. Now that we're formally sharing this information, when you send me the emails now, right, I can send you PDFs of this if you don't want the hard copy, or in addition to the hard copy, and we can answer questions by pointing to certain things and, again, being consistent, being detailed, being contextual, and being much more responsive than we've been these past couple of weeks. So I don't know if you guys are worried too much about the midterm elections. I think things are going great, right? And I like pork, right? It doesn't mean I like to go to the sausage factory all the time, right? I'm actually quite optimistic. I think I've been explaining to our clients, we are a wealth management firm. We do lots of estate planning, lots of business law. And I say that because we have a lot of folks that we're trying to explain what's happening. Basically, all of the blue cities are going through a crack whore, right, withdrawal system. So they're suffering blue city recessions, right? When you've had to survive on crack or meth for this long and it stops, that withdrawal sucks. It's painful, it's never pleasant. But I'm trying to help explain to you why nationally things look great. See, the country is doing great. The sanctuary cities are sucking it because the money has disappeared. No, that's what happens, right? That's what's happening, right? But the reason why I say this is I don't want you to be down. You guys are here. Don't be discouraged. We're trying to empower all of you to gear up because it's going to be, I think, a great, great midterm election. We're going to have a fantastic new sheriff. But you got to show up, right? And I'm a cheap bastard. Ask my wife. I'm a cheap bastard, right? So, and I say that because, I want to see where money is put. When I donate money to a candidate, right? The Heather made a great point. If you go ahead and order steaks, right, from Peter Luger's, right, where it's $500 a head, I'm not going to be crazy because I know where my money went, right? So I want, the Lord gives us blessings, right? And remember the parable of the talents, right? We don't want to be that loser with the one talent bearing on the ground, right? By being American, right, by default, the poorest homeless street person in America is in the top 1% of historical human wealth. They can open any spigot and drink water without E. coli, without botulinum, right? The dumpsters are overflowing with food. I'm not saying it's pleasant, but be really optimistic. Please be the things that are happening, big picture, you should be nothing but encouraged, but understand, right? Whether it's a spoiled child that has to learn his lesson or someone who's going through withdrawals. That's what we're seeing. Don't let what the micro reality in LA, right? What's happening here make you think that we've got no shot. The Democrats are completely upside down. All right, you can see what's happening in New York. This is an amazing time to strike, right? So please be prepared. Please talk. Please encourage each other. And it's not just money. It's sweat equity and the dollars. You have to have both. But be brutally demanding in terms of we all have to hold each other accountable as accountability partners, right? Because we're all on the same team. Okay, guys? All right. You want me to light another fire? So, thank you for your time. I apologize yes, please. Yes, so my wife, Sonia, and my little ding-dong son over there, Isaac. Aww. Say hello to Isaac. So they've got a stack of these things. I didn't put them on the table because I know a lot of the clubs are established. You may not be interested, but I can also email a copy of this to you.
Explain that he's a PhD candidate.
He doesn't have one yet. Yeah, so, but anyone can say that. I'm a PhD candidate too. Yeah. Well, I've learned the hard way. You can love your kids the same, but not like them the same. Yeah. Right? See, Mom, that's true. See, I can tell. She would not pass a lie detector test right now. Are there any questions? Yes.
It's a stupid one.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is every 527 a pack, or is every pack a 527?
Ah.
Are they the same thing?
So I would, from a kind of lay perspective, I would say all 527s are packs, but different packs, size packs are regulated differently, right? Just like if you think of corporations, a sole proprietorship is what you do if you have a lawn mowing service, right? If you want to set up a little shop and you don't want to lose everything, you set up a little LLC, but the profits are still on your tax return. Maybe you want to get a little higher, you do an S corporation. But if you want to go public, if you want an investor, you have to have a C corporation. They're all corporate entities, but they're for different purposes. That's a great question. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. See, you're using that right arm again. I'm very impressed. Last time I met this lady, she got into a bar fight. She like dislocated her shoulder, right? The scars are healing up real nice. I lost. No, I lost. She kicked my butt. And it was at Roxanne's house, so she can tell you. She has probably footage.
My question is, in the analysis of the blue cities going through crack court withdrawal.
Yes.
As the sheriff knows all too well, and as you do, not every withdrawal is successful.
Yes.
Sometimes the addict dies.
Yes.
What
Thanks for bringing us down.
What is for the long-term projection for the future?
It depends on whether or not LA has to file for bankruptcy, number one, like Stockton did. Okay, what kills these cities are these public unions, right? And so they're tied together like this. They're like Stockton, because Stockton got away with it. They got away with it because the spotlight wasn't on the state and the county and the city, right? California is dirty at all levels, right? And so depending on who the next attorney general is, right? If the DOJ does its job, if Treasury does its job, right? And then, I don't know if you know, there's a whole lot of new software in a lot of these, I think a lot of people are getting a lot more IRS letters now. We're getting a lot of IRS clients saying, I got this letter. Software is really ramping up. There are fewer and fewer places for these roaches to hide. Okay, the city is unbelievably broke. I mean, unbelievably broke. The county is not far behind, and it's just taking one slush fund after another away. Similarly, so number one, it depends on how badly, so again, you can try to withdraw slowly, that doesn't work, right? 12-step program, you gotta admit you have a problem, you have to hit rock bottom. Fiscally, Chicago, New York, and LA cannot, they've been insolvent for a decade, okay? It's just a function of them having to say, yes, there is no federal aid, there's no bailout coming. And then you're gonna start seeing that in the bond interest rates, right? When like Puerto Rico, right? The interest rates are super high because everyone in Puerto Rico's broke. So they're not expecting that bond to get repaid. Any other questions? Yes?
I'm a brand new member at large. My first meeting. This gentleman, you are so worth it to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. Thank you very much. What's up? No, you're in Lake Arrowhead?
I'm in Simi Valley.
Simi. Fantastic. Well, you have a...
Janet for inviting me. This was wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. Okay, so you're saying you want me to order more dessert for you. But we've got more candles. That'll happen. More questions. Yes, Fern.
You mentioned that you'd like to see us grow as a 527. 2 years ago, our group became a 527, even though I didn't know what a 527 was. But I put it together. Now, if we grow, will we be able to have more in our account annually than 25,000?
So there's a big difference between what's in your account versus how much your revenue is every year. So you don't have to spend all 25K every year. But what I would suggest, and this is where we're happy to talk to you, right? Think of them as special purpose vehicles. You can have the mothership 527, and I would try to keep it as unregulated as possible.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Now, if you have a great candidate who's worthy of investment, right, we can talk about setting up a separate 527 for his campaign. So, oh yeah, okay, sure, maybe for the Democratic candidate here. But that would be a more permanent support, right? But we can talk, and look, what I'm trying to suggest is you don't want to take risk throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's cliche number 3, right? You have a 527. It has a history, and it has a cash flow, right? Record, 24 months of bank activity, which is now reported. Right? One of the reasons we encourage all of our business clients not to do sole proprietorships, not to do S corporations, for the love of God, no LLCs, is all of those profits show up on your personal tax return. And so when you have a good year, it looks like you're filthy rich, and then your estimated taxes are huge. And then if you're like this the next year, right, you're just screaming and begging for a personal audit, which means they'll go through all of your personal bank accounts. Keep the mothership as boring as possible.
Yeah, it's boring.
Do all the drug dealing in a separate sidecar SPV. Right, Oscar? That's the way you do it, right? Especially in the Caymans. Yes.
Well,
Yes. Yes.
Now, and if you have too many members coming in and paying dues and buying lunch and all that money is flowing in, now you're over the 25 really quick.
So if you're over the 25 with just membership, that's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
That's a well, so it is a great problem.
Quietly, you have to
But-
file forever.
Which is why one thing you may want to consider, right? You talked about several different revenue opportunities there. Pure membership, just do the math backwards, right? How many members do you have to have $25,000 a year in dues? That's awesome. So, no, hear me out. Right. So hear me out. So number one, you can run all the other lunch stuff through a separate 527. Number one. Yes, but no annual reporting. Right? It's super easy. Number two, by the way, guys, even as bum broke as the United States government is, as bum broke as the state of California is, as bum broke the city of California, the city of Los Angeles is, they still haven't gotten to the point where they're forcing you to be a sharecropper or a slave. Right? What do I mean? If you have a for-profit entity, it doesn't have to be not-for-profit. You don't have to show a profit. So you can theoretically just have a marketing organization, just a generic LLC or a C corporation, and it just doesn't make any money. Right? You're just covering your expenses, right? Right? So if you have a $100,000 lunch party business where you make $1,000, pay the 28% and be done with it, and just let an accountant deal with it. Right? The point is, for the political activity, for your membership, please protect it and cherish it by being as boring and as unregulated as possible. Right? Boring is sexy, right? Yes.
Suppose this year we have this amazing event, you go 25,000, you have to file a form. Do you have to file a form?
See? You see? This is why. This is just like, so Tony Soprano gives you a corner, and you have a good year, and you're going to kick up $100,000. And then let's say it becomes much harder to find crack, right? And so all of a sudden you don't make 100,000. Does Tony Soprano care that the economy is bad? No. It's called a high watermark. That's the way these guys think. Once you've demonstrated you're able to squeeze $100,000 from your corner, he's going to expect $100,000 plus 10% next year. Which is why it's just another way of explaining, keep the mothership boring, under the radar for as long as possible. And if your mothership is so big, that's a phenomenal problem. You have enough money to get an accountant to file all the stuff for you. But do all the other things, especially political campaigning in separate 527s would be my humble suggestion. Yes, ma'am?
Any limit on the number of 527s that you could run?
Not that I know.
Okay.
Right? Because what are they looking for, right? They don't want to see you laundering tons of cash, right? But they have software for that. I don't know if you guys know. When the IRS and the Treasury and the NSA and the FBI have software, they treat all of you like viruses. Okay, so it's called heuristic analytics. They look for, right, irregular behavior, which is why, again, if you have a sole proprietorship, I'm getting kicked out. So sole proprietorship, right, when you have a good year and a bad year and a good year, you are on the radar, right? So better to have the radar activity in a separate, segregated entity so that no one asks you for your mothership bank accounts. Okay? Sorry. Last two questions. Yes, Paula.
I just wanted to say to the lady, if you're talking about dinners or lunches, be sure on your paperwork, separate the two. So if the lunch costs $50 and you're collecting $75, your income's only $25. And be sure and keep that, and even try to put it on your envelopes or your invitations, what's tax deductible. And that's one way to protect that. Because you're not getting it at $50, you're only getting the $25.
And so that's a great point. And it reminds me, look, this is not, as I mentioned, you don't do 501c3s for politics, right? So what does that mean? You're not trying to get tax exempt status because you want the donor to get a tax break, right? The donor does not get a tax deduction for their contribution. All you're trying to do is make sure that those fees and the dinner money does not count as profitable, taxable income to the not-for-profit entity, but the contributions are not tax deductible. right? So there's a whole lot less. So that's why it's really not that different than having a little corporation that invite. Well, let me put it another way. How many of you guys are? How many of you guys are all not Asian, right? Yeah, we're the token Asians here, right? And I say that because culturally, when you go with a bunch of Asians, I don't know if you see, they fight over the damn bill. Like it's ridiculous, right? I mean, they're arguing and punching each other, right? It's terrible. But most people just go Dutch now, right? Do you report that? Did you report that dinner where you go Dutch to your tax to the tax authorities? No, because you're not trying to get a tax deduction, right? So let's say you get a whole bunch of people together for a meeting, right? Theoretically, everyone just paying their way. It's Dutch. You're not really safe. You're just covering your expenses. So one could argue, I'm not saying you have to do this, but one could argue, you're just having everyone pay for their lunch and just pay the lady, right? It's just no different than, okay, everybody gives me $30. Right? That's not a business activity. It's really a hobby, and you're not making any money off of it, right? So the IRS doesn't really have a bone to pick with you. So you don't necessarily even have to have that as a recognized revenue for your 501c4 or your 527. Yes? For reporting purposes, federal, yes. Yes, it's all receipts. Sure. As opposed to total receipts versus the contribution. That little c word is more focused on what am I giving to Oscar, right? That's where they're thinking more of political contributions as opposed to just activity. Okay. All right, so I apologize. I'll be here, so if you guys want to ask more questions, please do. Thank you so much.